Well, good thing I noticed that I had forgotten to hit the Go Live button before I got started. Okay. Well, there we are. Hello, hello, hello. I am Restre Alk, the Locomotive Tsukumogami, here in hand cam mode. Wearing clothing that I don't mind getting paint on, which is why I don't have a camera pointed at myself. We're going to be building a BattleTech diorama that is also a Shorty model train layout. Quick story about that. I originally got the layout, or the diorama board, for a Shorty layout. That was the plan. But then, when it arrived, I thought, well, you know, this would be great as a BattleTech diorama base as well. So what do I use it for? And I went back and forth on that for a little while before the thought came to me that I could just do both. Why not, right? It won't be to scale, but Shorty is already not to scale, so what are you going to do? Now, the tunnel entrance is here, which I have stuck together with a bit of plastic card to keep the distance where I want it. Those are 3D printed, as well as these wall sections. I've got links in the description to where you can go and get those files. The wall sections are part of a very large set of science fiction terrain that's compatible with BattleTech. I believe specifically designed to be. You can see layer lines there. I had my settings on my printer a little rougher than maybe we want for sheer quality, but anyway, I'm distracting myself. Let's get started. I'm going to paint these to start with, and then we will glue these and the track onto the diorama board. The battle mechs I'm going to paint separately because that's going to be a more involved process. These I'm just going to cover in sky gray and then do a few details in dark green. Yeah. Well, may as well get started. Give the paint a good shake. Oh yeah, that looks great on the camera, I'm sure. It's not coming out of the bottle. Uh-oh. Did I get some paint dried in the nozzle? I think I did. Oh, it's kind of washed out by all the light. Oh yeah, there's some dried paint in there. Oh. Should have checked it. I should have checked it. Oh well. Fortunately, pulling the nozzle out and just pouring some onto the palette is within the realm of possibility. Maybe. There we go. There we go. Okay. This bottle's actually almost empty. I'd better add it to my shopping list. I need a little more. But I've got enough for today, and that's what matters right now. Now, we're just going to be dry brushing. For those of you who haven't seen my earlier painting project, dry brushing on anything that's supposed to be metal or concrete or otherwise metallic or solid. I almost said metallic, but you know, metal already covers that. Black primer and dry brushing is usually a pretty good technique for that. You don't want to use it for anything that's supposed to be soft or organic, but yeah. not bad for something like this. A wall, a battle mech, stones, that sort of thing. That's where you want to do the black priming and dry brushing. Yeah, there we go. We're off to a pretty decent start. We are getting some uneven application there, and that's mostly me. Just being me. Of course, the trouble with dry brushing is I have to wipe the brush off on paper towels every time I load it with more paint. Otherwise, my dry brushing isn't very dry, and that consumes all the detail. There we go. Now, for the BattleTech aspect, I'm thinking a couple of mechs sort of defending a base, and this would be kind of the edge of the base, the fringes. So probably, well, I know what mechs I'm going to be using. The question is the factions. So I've got 2 clan mechs that are going to be the defenders, and 3 inner sphere mechs that will be attacking. So, I mean, if we're going by Ill-Clan era, which why wouldn't we? A lot of factions have access to clan technology. Although how many of them are using stone rhinos and hunchback 2Cs specifically, I would have to check the master unit list again. But honestly, you know, even if they're not officially using them, battlefield salvage happens, and just old battle mechs that still work. Or, you know, acquisitions, legal and otherwise. Sometimes a mech falls off the back of a truck. It's a big truck, but, you know, it happens. So to speak. And of course, normally in such an attack, the doors through the walls would be closed. But if we do that, the train can't run through. So we will take the slightly impractical conceit of the defenders leaving this set of doors open, as well as the barricades inside the tunnel, so that the layout can function. Because otherwise I would have to restrict the tracks to just like a tiny little portion, essentially where the battle wasn't happening. And that would be kind of bland. More realistic, sure, but not as much fun. This technique can be a little hard on your brushes, although this one's taking it pretty well so far. Have to engage in a lot of careful brush maintenance if you do a lot of dry brushing, because it is a bit harsh. There we are. That's that section done. We'll do the top here. I keep checking the camera feed to make sure I'm not hiding anything from you by mistake. Because that would just be kind of embarrassing, right? That is a habit of mine on my hand cam streams that I would like to break. because it's not exactly quality entertainment, you know. You tune into a hand cam stream, you want the hands to be on cam. That's the whole, I mean, it's right there in the name. And more to the point, you want what the hands are doing to be on cam. So, you know, where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, just, I'm trying to make sure to keep this on camera. There we go, there we go. Yeah, we'll leave that intersection there, the door, I imagine, is kind of a little less painted, so it doesn't stand out as much. Stabilize here. Much better. And let's do this. I don't know, I kind of ran out of things to say all of a sudden, didn't I? I guess I could talk about Stone Rhino, just because it's, of the battle mechs I'm using for this diorama, probably my favorite. Just a big ol' 100-ton monstrosity. With an interesting history to it, actually. When Stefan Amaris tried to take over the Star League and instigated the appropriately named Amaris Civil War, things didn't necessarily go well for him. Certainly not towards the end, as will happen. And what he wanted, he had a manufacturing company on Terra called Amaris Arms, which may have been just an existing battle mech factory that had been forced to rebrand at gunpoint. I'm not sure where Amaris Arms came from, to be completely honest. But the point is, he had Amaris Arms. He set them a project, I should say, which was to build him a new battle mech, a new class of battle mech that could take on an entire company of the Star League Defense Force by itself. He envisioned them as the ultimate in mobile defense. And he put his favorite cousin, Rifkin Amaris, in charge of the project. Although Stefan Amaris did quite a lot of meddling on his own, it must be confessed. He didn't leave Rifkin with a whole lot of creative space. The result, the Matar, was 110 tons, the first battle mech to break the 100-ton limit. Unfortunately for the family Amaris, it wasn't that great. In fact, the Matar could not walk, is the thing. Test pilot sat down in the cockpit, pushed the throttle up. The highly advanced computer systems, in conjunction with the battle mech's multi-ton gyroscopic stabilization system, and of course borrowing the pilot's sense of balance through the neuro helmet, pretty much instantly analyzed its situation and determined that if it tried to take a single step forward, it was going to fall over. There was just no way that the Matar could keep itself upright while moving. Naturally, House Amaris was not happy with this development. In fact, Stefan Amaris ordered Rifkin to execute the entire design team on the crime, quote-unquote, of treasonous incompetence, I believe is how Stefan put it. And Rifkin, demonstrating why he was Stefan's favorite cousin, was only too happy to oblige. Rifkin tried to keep the project going. Of course, it wasn't happening officially anymore because the Star League was busy liberating Terra, and so what little Stefan had left was going towards the fight, not developing new war machines. But Rifkin tried to sneak off the planet with a refugee group, I believe, carrying the designs for the Matar with him. His hope, I believe, was to take those blueprints somewhere else and continue working on them, get a new crew together, and build a prototype that could move. Rifkin was caught. He didn't make it off the planet. He was tried, found guilty of crimes against humanity. He wasn't executed, mostly because he didn't directly kill hundreds of people. All he took out was one design team. He was sentenced to life in prison. But I believe he didn't even last a year before his fellow prisoners took him out their own way, as it were. Amaris, the Amaris was not a popular name at the time, no matter where you were. Anyway, the designs for the Matar were taken by the Star League Defense Force and analyzed. They could not find a way around the balance issue. So they just archived the data and forgot about it for the most part. Fast forward a century or two, maybe a little more than that. Well, yeah, probably closer to 2 centuries. Whatever. It doesn't matter the exact time. Or at least I'm going to say it doesn't matter because I don't remember. But the point is, Clan Smoke Jaguar, I believe, needed a new assault mech for garrison purposes. It had to be a standard battle mech. They weren't going to put Omni mechs on garrison duty. Those were too valuable. Still are in the eyes of many clansmen, I would say. So, standard battle mech, 100 tons. Because it's straight up meant to just hold the line. So it was okay for it to be as slow as mud. And have a standard engine instead of an XL, I believe, if memory serves. So long as it was as hard as nails and heavily armed. The technicians were in a bit of a hurry to get the project started. They didn't want to design a new battle mech from scratch if they didn't have to. So they went digging around in those old Star League archives, and they found the designs for the Matar. And they said to themselves, we can work with this. We can work with this. They notched down the weight to 100 tons because they weren't going to bother to try and solve that balance issue. And 100 tons was the assumed maximum weight for battle mechs anyway, in terms of logistics, in transportation and storage and all that good stuff. To do that, they knocked off a ton of armor, which brought it down to the maximum that a 100-ton chassis can carry. Took off some of the weapon systems. Particularly, they got rid of the flamers, which Stefan had wanted. He had visions of the Matar roasting enemy infantry alive, and he wanted to see that come to fruition, so he demanded flamers. The clans did not demand flamers, so away they went. Now, what else did they put on it? I want to say they just slapped a couple Gauss rifles on it, and some large lasers. Extended range, of course, it's the clans. Or are they PPCs? Now I don't remember. My memory, yeah. Anyway. They called it the Stone Rhino. And it performed admirably in its role. They even slapped jump jets on it, come to think of it. And it's faster than the Matar would have been if it could have walked, although that's not saying much. It's about the same speed as your average Atlas. So, you know, it's not going to win any races. It'll outrun an urban mech. I think I need to put a little more paint on my palette. But anyway, the Stone Rhino was a very successful garrison battle mech. And that meant that quite a lot of them made it to the Inner Sphere during Operation Revival, as you might imagine. And they continue to be in use all the way into the 3150s. Certainly, I don't think quite as many factions use them as they used to, but it is still a very widespread machine. So, yeah, the Jags got their new machine, and their technicians and scientists proved that they could do what a Maris couldn't, which was make the design viable. I guess that's all I have to say about the Stone Rhino. There are a few variants of it that just use different weapons mostly, but they all stick to the same general design concept. Brutal, long range, tough as nails, slow as mud. Now, getting to what I'm actually painting here, maybe I should talk about what I'm actually doing in front of your very eyes. Yeah, there's a thought that occurred to me. I'm figuring, I said this before, just a fort, or the edge of a fort. These tunnel entrances, I made a very unwise decision when I printed these. And that is, I printed them laying flat. So they were pretty well stuck to the surface, the print surface, when it came time to clean them up and get them ready for painting. And as a result, they broke as I was trying to remove them. And I'm sure you've probably noticed some of the evidence of that. Let's see if we can get the camera to, yeah, right there and there. Couple of cracks that still show. I decided not to print another set because I figure, you know, maybe it's ferrocrete. Ferrocrete might develop cracks after a while and need to get patched up. Right? I'm not actually sure. I know regular concrete does, and I'm sure ferrocrete isn't that much different. Even if it's a little more durable, or a lot more durable, as the case may be. So I thought, yeah. And if this is a clan-held base, as evidenced by the Stone Rhino and the Hunchback 2C, which is the other clan mech that I'm using for this diorama, surely they would expend the minimum of effort. Just slap some extra concrete on there, make sure it's not going to fall apart, and call it a day. Job's a good un, right? Job's a good un. These, on the other hand, printed quite nicely, came off the print bed without too much trouble. I did call out the layer lines that you're probably noticing there. That's on me, I'm gonna say. Layer lines are, you know, a result of the print process. They're not in the file, is what I'm saying. What I should do, if I want to eliminate those, is see how small I can set my layer height to be on my printer. I know it can go smaller than what I've currently got it at. But I compromised in that regard because I wanted a little more speed to my printing. Of course, you know, it's a resin printer, so the number of layers is your primary determiner in how long a print will take. And thinner layers naturally means more layers. So there is a give and take there, and I erred a little in the wrong direction, I suppose. Because now I've got visible layer lines, even visible through the primer and the paint. But on the other hand, they didn't take like 20 hours to print, so, you know, I might be exaggerating. I don't know how long it would have taken if I had cut the layer size down a little. Certainly longer than it did. Speaking of my 3D printer, it's actually out of commission. Unfortunately, the FEP sheet has developed a leak. I'm not sure exactly how that happened, although I have a suspicion that a failed print was involved. Maybe a piece, because some pieces broke off of some things that were printing. And if a piece got underneath a part that was still on the print bed, and was pushed down into the FEP sheet, that might have been enough force to give it a bit of a rip. But however it happened, can't use my resin vat until I get a new sheet. Can't use my printer until I peel off the hardened resin that is fused to the LCD. That should actually, hopefully, not be too rough of a project. You know, plastic spudger, lots of rubbing alcohol. It should come out okay. I had this happen before, and I peeled off the screen protector, and then, fool that I am, I just went on printing without getting another screen protector, and that's why the screen is now in the state that it's in. If I had just been patient, waited for another protector to come in the mail, and stuck that on there, all I would need to replace is the FEP sheet. Or all I would need to do is replace the FEP sheet. Hopefully I don't have to replace that screen. I'd rather not. Those things aren't the cheapest accessory in the world. I say accessory like it's not absolutely essential to the functioning of the printer. But such are the travails of printing with resin. That said, I do still prefer resin to FDM. I find that it handles details that FDM just can't. And mechanically, you've only got one moving part, and it only goes in two directions, essentially. So there's less trouble with mechanical failures and things like that. Of course, there is more of a hassle in terms of preparing to print and post-processing afterwards. Because an FDM printer, post-processing is you let it finish cooling, and then you peel it off the print bed, and if there were supports, which there probably were, you just peel those off and it's ready. It's done. It's a done print. You can do more with it to smooth out the layer lines and things like that, but functionally, it's done. Resin, on the other hand, doesn't work quite that easily. You pull it off the print surface, dunk it in isopropyl alcohol, give it a good wash in the alcohol, then give it a good rinse in distilled water. All of that to remove the resin that's still clinging to it. That's the still liquid resin, I mean. Then what do? You gotta put it in a box and fire up a UV lamp to finish it up. Otherwise, it'll be like bendy and weirdly sticky and other kinds of trouble. But you don't want to put it in front of that lamp for too long, or it'll get brittle. And that's generally not what you're looking for. And of course, you have to wear your gloves because you don't want the resin on your, you don't want the liquid resin on your skin. And your goggles because you don't want the liquid resin in your eyes. For goodness sakes, keep that stuff out of your eyes. And your face mask because you don't want to breathe in the resin and contaminate it with your moisture in your mouth. So yeah, it's all a bit of a faff, as they say. But I think it's worth it to get nice prints like this. Yeah. Yeah. We're almost done with our gray. We just need to do the interior side of the last remaining tunnel entrance piece. Yes, yes. I'm not going to bother painting the cross section here. That is going to be completely hidden inside of the hill that the tunnel is going through. So we're not gonna waste a single drop of paint on that. Honestly, we probably didn't need to paint the general area around it, but I did anyway, because if any of that ends up being exposed, you know. Right? Maybe by that logic I should paint the plastic. Nah. Nah, because I know what's going to happen. It's going to be gone. Disappeared, invisible. Unless you, like, stick your face right down into the tunnel. Alright, that's the gray. Let's give this brush a wash. Okay, brush is clean, or clean enough that it won't be ruined when the paint dries. I'll give it a proper washing out with some brush soap once the stream is done. Crack open my flavored water here. One day, when I have an audience, there will be a proportion of them that's mostly here to listen to me drink. I will understand it, but I won't complain about it. Because I am an entertainer. And if listening to me drink sparkling water entertains you, then I'm doing my job, aren't I? At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right? Right. Alright, now mecha color is generally thinner than model color because it's meant for airbrushing. But you can still apply it with a good old-fashioned brush. I was going to say an animal hair brush, but this is synthetic. There's no animal hair on this thing. No need to shave critters just for paintbrushes. Let them keep their fur. They probably need it more than we do. And we're just going to put a little bit of dark gray there. Dark green there. Why did I say gray? I guess because I was just finished using gray. And that is even thinner than I remember it being. Okay, okay. Instead of dry brushing, I think we're going to have to resort to glazing. Because it's... yeah, there we go. It's basically a glaze as it is. I haven't had much chance to use my mecha colors lately. I just haven't been painting models that required them. I've been experimenting with some other paints, though. But that's a topic for another time. I think. Yeah, there we go. I'm a little divided on whether I should paint these sections. Because that might be a bit too much. I only want, you know, a little bit of green. The gray is the main color that I want to have, you know, immediately in front of your eyeballs. So, yeah, I think those big old bands there, that'd be too much green. That'd be too much green. we'll just do the little blocks. Yeah. I suppose I could talk about the Hunchback 2C, but I don't know much about it. The original Hunchback, of course, is famous for packing a Class 20 autocannon, and I don't think anything else. Maybe it's got like small lasers or something? Or am I thinking of the AC-10 Hunchback? I don't know. Anyway, the idea was build a 55-ton battle mech, or 50 tons. I don't remember the Hunchback's lore very well, do I? Even worse than the Stone Rhino. Anyway, build a medium battle mech that could punch way above its weight class, was the scheme with the Hunchback. So yeah, it's got jump jets, I think. The 2C does. I don't know if the original does. Big old AC-20. Terrifying in urban combat. Less so on an open field, where you can hammer away at it from outside of its AC's range. But yeah, if you're invading a city, or you're defending a city from invasion, you don't want to see a Hunchback. Not in your enemy's colors. So the clans, being the clans, with their highly advanced technology, designed a version of the Hunchback that has 2 AC-20s. And in fact, Ultra AC-20s. And those are absolutely horrific to fight against. They can shred almost any battle mech out there if they catch them by surprise. Of course, they are still medium battle mechs and have a medium battle mech's armor. So if a Hunchback 2C goes up against, say, an Atlas, that mech warrior better not miss. I believe the Hunchback 2C is actually very popular with the Salama forces. Because, of course, the Salama, their main hope is to die on the battlefield before they get too old to fight. And, of course, the clans being as ageist as they are, too old to fight is probably a little younger than you might be imagining. And the Hunchback 2C, I think it honestly fits in quite well with the Salama's mindset. Because they're not going to just walk out there and let the enemy shoot them. That's not how an honorable warrior fights, even if he does want to die. Even if they do want to die, I should say. There's more than one gender. Yeah, that was a legitimate slip on my part. I should have said they to begin with. And I will cop to that. It's a bad habit of mine that I'm still working on breaking. Anyway. A Salama warrior is going to want to deal as much damage to the enemy as possible, so that the enemy will focus their attacks on them, and thus increase the chances of dying in battle, as well as increasing their opportunities to damage the enemy. Because that's the thing with the Salama. Yes, they want to die when they go out there on the battlefield, But they want to take as many enemies with them as possible, so that it can be said that they died honorably. And not that they just ran out there and let themselves be gunned down. Because again, no one wants that. Well, I say no one. No clan warrior wants that. If you're a clan warrior, the one thing you don't want people to say is that you fought with anything less than the full extent of your ability. You want people to say that you went down guns blazing. Honestly, I think a Solama might resent being assigned a Stone Rhino because they're so tough. Stone Rhinos aren't going to go down guns blazing because, for the most part, they're just not going to go down. Unless you head cap them. Although a Solama, I think, would probably be okay with that fate. As long as they took out a few hostiles beforehand. Surely they would resent it from the next life if they went out on the battlefield and got head capped immediately. That would be viewed poorly, I assume. Okay, I've spotted some locations here on the tunnel that I missed, and you can see one right there quite prominently. So we're gonna clean that up real quick. There's that one. Any more? I'm sure there was another one on the other section, but what about this one? I don't see anything else. So yeah, we'll move over here and work on this side. Oh, okay. Alright, that looks better. Still a little grimy underneath, but that's probably okay. Not where people are going to be looking anyhow. Alright, now we set aside our paints and our brushes. And we get the diorama board itself. Once I put the palette over there out of the way. And our adhesive. Yeah, I've taken the precaution of putting masking tape on the track, naturally. Oops. I just bumped the microphone. That's real smooth of me. There we are. I think I need a slightly bigger tripod, but let's move this out a little so you can observe. The whole thing there. Yeah, I do need a taller tripod so we can get a better angle on this, but I'm working with what I got. Ooh, I just whacked the camera. Man, I'm hitting everything I'm not supposed to hit today. Next I don't know what I'll hit. Probably myself at this rate. I won't even mean to. There we go. That's how I had it planned out for the track. This wall right up against the edge there. The tunnel there. More or less. We can slide it around if we need to. This wall I'm not quite sure about. I can put it like that, but then we have to move the mountain more over this way. And that concerns me, what with the nose ends of the Shinkansen coming around that curve. So maybe we put the mountain here on the straight section, and we swing the wall this way. Because the wall has to intersect with the mountain, you see. because otherwise there would be more wall. That leaves a gap in between those two sections there. But I think that's okay. I can just fill that in with a little modeling putty. And it honestly ought to be just fine. So, yeah, and then the mountain, there'll be like a retaining wall type situation here-ish. Yeah, I'll put the tunnel entrances there. Yeah. And then it'll reach to the edge of the diorama board on the other side here, which is why this plastic bit will be hidden. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, alright. Makes sense in the whole noggin. I just say noggin? What am I, my dad? Oh gosh, I am my dad. Oh no. No, that's not true. My dad has no interest in model trains. Or BattleTech. He thinks they're both wastes of money. My dad thinks that everything's a waste of money. But that's enough about my weird childhood. We don't need to discuss that today. That's not what we're here for. Not in the slightest. Yeah, you go right there. With a little bit of super glue on you. The track, I guess I'll glue down next. Honestly, I should have glued that down before the wall, but okay. Doesn't matter too much, really. As long as I can put the glue under it. Or on the underside, I should say. I'm using white glue for this application. White glue is generally the recommended model railroad glue for most purposes. Oops, again. Maybe I should have glued the track down first. Oh well. I mean, it's too late now. The super glue is holding. Alright, well, that's fine. And a little super glue over here, just for extra solidity. Stick it on the edge there and let capillary action do its thing. Now let's clean up this mess. With help from my good friend, Torn Off Chunk of Paper Towel. Torn Off Chunk of Paper Towel is a mastermind when it comes to hobbying. You will require their services on many occasions. If you go into almost any hands-on sort of hobby like this. Torn Off Chunk of Paper Towel. Always remember their name. That was more funny in my head, but I still laughed when I said it out loud. Alright, yeah, you'll go right there. Yeah, I'll just do a little bit of modeling putty in that gap that gets formed. Oops, I could use a corner piece, but those also have pretty long sections of wall on them, and that would take up more of the diorama than I want to with the fort section. I just want it to be this corner. So yeah, a little putty there, a little bit here to block off that end, make it look like it's supposed to be like that. And then I'm not actually fully decided on how I'm going to build the mountain. I'm thinking cardboard and papier-mâché. Papier-mâché, let's use the proper French, if we're going to be French about it. Because if we were going to use the English, it would be chewed paper, I believe. Mâché having the same root word is masticate, or to chew. I need to get a bird's eye view, so I'm going to stand up for a second. Yeah, that's why I used white glue for the tunnel. Give me a little time to adjust. Alright, so we'll let the glue dry. And while that's happening, I'll grab the battle mechs. And we'll just plan out where we want them. Speaking of the stone rhino. Now, I did make a bit of an error in that I should have left them unprimed until I decided on their positions so that I could repose them if necessary. Or even if not necessary, just to be aesthetically pleasing. But that's okay. Alright, so we'll have our 3 attackers coming in from this side. Probably focused a bit more on the stone rhino, because, I mean, look at the thing. We've got a Victor leading the charge, an Enforcer providing fire support, and over here a Raven for electronic warfare. The stone rhino has trudged out of the gate, which it barely fit through, I imagine. Or maybe it popped its jump jets and went over the gate and is meeting them on the field of battle. The Hunchback 2C, yeah, those are jump jets on the back of the legs. Focus. Good enough. Once I build the hill, it will be on top, having jumped up there. Keep bumping into this tunnel. So that is the plan. For the 2 factions that are fighting, I'm thinking the defending side will be the Mercantile Militia of the Aliena Mercantile League. Because, I don't know. The Mercantile Militia doesn't have a parade color scheme. They use camouflage appropriate for their situation. Their battlefield, really, is what I mean to say. Although they do add blue on the shoulders or upper portions of a battle mech. So I'm thinking an urban camo color scheme for these guys. And that's actually part of the reason I picked the Aliena Mercantile League, because I wanted a chance to paint some urban camouflage. For the attackers, I'm not sure. There's quite a few factions operating in the former Jade Falcon occupation zone that could theoretically come up against them. You've got mercenaries of various degrees of quality and respectability and notoriety, and all those other things that mercenaries like to have. You've got the Lyran Commonwealth, you've got the Vesper Marches, the Fallen Falcons, maybe they're, well, would the Fallen Falcons use spheroid machines? I guess if they had to. Clan Hell's Horses, but again, probably wouldn't use spheroid machines if they didn't have to. Gosh, what's the other Lyran breakaway state? There's the Vesper Marches, but then there's another one. And I don't remember what it's called, which is a little embarrassing. I mean, I've had more embarrassing lapses of memory on this stream, but that one's gonna bug me. Or it could be the Lyran Commonwealth themselves. Maybe a unit gone rogue, or the Commonwealth finally deciding to get off their butts and do an actual fight. Yeah, it's a complicated situation over there in that part of the inner sphere. And that's why I love it so much. But yeah, I need to decide on a faction for the attackers so I can decide how I'm going to paint them. Heck, maybe even a Rogue Capellan Confederation unit? It's... Well, the Mercantile League isn't too far out of the way for the Capellans. If they were doing a deep raid looking for lots of clan tech to loot, they could do worse than a Mercantile League planet. Yeah. Yeah, There's a lot of possibilities. And I mean, if I go mercenary, which mercs do I use? I think the Ronin are still operating in the region. What was the one that went rogue from the Aliena Mercantile League? Tread of Doom, but they're mostly conventional vehicles. There was another one that I forget. So yeah, maybe the Ronin, the Grey Death Legion, although, I've already got enough Grey going on here, I think. Maybe the Kellhounds? I could see... Well, they're mostly focused on defense right now. I don't know that they'd go punching into the Aliena Mercantile League looking for a fight. But then again, Clan Tech Salvage, you never know. I'll have to make up my mind. Honestly, part of me is saying Ronin just because I like their color scheme quite a bit. And, isn't that as good a reason as any? I think so. Regardless, we're not going to worry too much about the bases because I'm going to actually take them off the bases once I'm done painting them. And yeah, they'll be on the diorama permanently. Because that's... I suppose I could leave the bases on and then have them be removable, but I wouldn't like that from an aesthetic standpoint. I want them to look like they're actually on the battlefield. So, yeah, from here, I need to pick a color scheme for the attackers and paint them up, paint the defenders up in their Aliena colors. For the board itself, inside the fort, I'm going to paint concrete color, which, pretty much a different gray, really. Outside is going to be, I think a forest is what I'll go for. I'll put some trees in, I'll put some hobby sand and grass flock down. It'll look pretty nice when I'm done, I believe. I believe. I'm saying I believe, like, more than I should. Right? I don't know. I say that, but is there a cap on the number of times I can say I believe? Surely not. But before anything else, I need to build the mountain. So I've got to make up my mind on how that's going to go. You know what I could do? I could use plastic card to make like a retaining wall that sort of connects this wall with the mountain. And that would probably make sense. You don't want your rocks and your dirt from your mountain to fall inside your base. Maybe, yeah, put a retaining wall on this side too. And then, yeah, cardboard supports and papier-mâché for the rest of it. Papier-mâché. One of these days I'll pronounce it right on the first try. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I would do that on stream. I feel like papier-mâché for an hour or two would be a really boring stream. So I think I will do that on my own time. Well, I do all of this on my own time. This is my hobby. I'll do that off camera, is what I should say. And then we will come back to this in the future. You can see, I was hoping the camera wouldn't pick these up, but I bought a very nice camera, so I shouldn't be surprised. I originally printed out smaller versions of the walls that would go under these portions of the tunnels. But that was too small for the battle mechs. Stone Rhino, in particular, would be able to lob shots from its torso weapons right over there. The Victor, I think, could fire its SRM rack over it. Oops. That glue is taking longer to cure than I would like, but, you know, that's white glue for you. Yeah, it wouldn't have been a good barricade. So I used original size walls instead. And we're just gonna build a mountain. Alright. That's why this side of each of these is the side that's going to be hidden within the mountain as well. So, anyway, enough explaining myself and my choices that aren't always the best. Next time, I think I'll paint the battle mechs next, and then we'll move on to the terrain aspect. Until then, this has been Restre Alk, and I will see you next time. Oh wow, I didn't think that would spike so much on the microphone. Alright, everybody. Man, you know what I just realized? There's something that I really should say at the end of every stream, but I'm not sure I actually say it. I know I didn't say it this time, and I don't think I've said it in my previous streams. So I'll say it right now. Thank you for watching.